Feel the grip of the oar handle, smooth yet firm in your hands. Taste the salt of your own sweat and the occasional splash of water. It's all part of the journey. Welcome to another episode of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. Each week, our host, Masters rowing coach Rebecca Caro, dives deep into the world of Masters rowing. Whether you're on the water or in the gym, join us to become a faster master. Let's go rowing.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. I'm Rebecca Caro, and today we're talking about long-term athlete development as masters. And I want to start by telling you a story about Tim. Tim has just sent me an email. We're part of a group here in New Zealand who are writing a strategy for Masters Rowing alongside Rowing New Zealand. I'm pretty excited by this because obviously you probably know I've lobbied for it for a long time. In his email, Tim said, "I'm really sorry, but I think I'm going to have to resign from the group. The reason is I'm not rejoining my club for the next season because I've broken my ankle." Poor Tim, you know, a sad moment, but a reality in the life of a Masters rower. We get injured and things happen, life happens, and you can't always be rowing. And I wrote back to him and the rest of the group saying that I really hoped he would continue to participate. He's in the group for a reason, and just because you're not a member of a rowing club currently doesn't mean that you can't contribute, which was what another member of the group also said. However, what is our goal for Masters in rowing? One of the differences about Masters compared with youth rowers is that we are in it for quite a long time in general. By comparison with other participating groups in rowing, juniors obviously last only until their sort of 19th birthday. Seniors last for as long as they want to, often into their early mid-20s. University obviously is tied to when you are currently studying. And each of those groups has a long-term athlete plan that takes you from the skill level and fitness level that you're at when you're starting upwards towards the highest possible participation that you are capable of. For some people, that's the Olympic Games. For others, it's provincial championships. But the focus is about racing and about becoming fitter and stronger and more skillful and doing sculling and sweep and steering and all those different things. Masters are not the same. The goal for most masters may be to race and to achieve high racing results in a similar way, but it isn't always. And I've learned over time that the long-term athlete development plan for a Masters rower is very different. Some people join simply because they want to learn, they want to participate, they want to see what it's like. Others are very much racing types who train very, very frequently and are there all the time. Others are really quite different again. So the sort of always active trainer type is not the same as someone who enjoys turning up for the weekend rows, enjoys the social participation, and is more of a fitness trainer and rows for fitness and for pleasure and a bit of friendship. And they may also race and compete, but generally speaking, they need a shorter term horizon. So you might say, let's bring a small group together who are all going to train for the next 3 months leading up to this event. And then when the event is over, you find that the club is a little emptier, a little more quiet during the weekdays because there's less incentive to get out there and train hard because you're not, preparing for a race. So I call this looping. You loop in and out of rowing in different ways over time. And many masters are members of a rowing club or a training group for multiple years, not just 3 or 5 years. Some can be decades and regularly participating. So what we have to look at in terms of masters rowing and the long-term athlete development is what is possible for you right now in your life. And life stage is a really important consideration. In your 30s, 40s, you might be a person who's got a high pressure job that requires a certain amount of travel for business. So you're not always physically in the same town. By contrast, you might be a flexible worker who can train at different times of day, who doesn't have to get up and be there at 6 o'clock in the morning to train, but can train later on in the day. You might be retired. Many masters retire to row. They participate very actively, very regularly, and it's a part of their retirement. But then there are people with children. And if you have children who are under 14 years old and can't be left on their own, you need a partner or a friend or somebody who can care for them while you're away rowing. It's very different from when your children turn 14 and they're allowed to look after themselves, and you may be more relaxed about leaving them alone in your home. And of course, people with care responsibilities, be it aging parents or whatever, have a very, very different time availability compared with those who don't. So our life stage is a really important part of the long-term athlete development for a masters rower. And so coming back to our goal for masters rowing, I'd like to say that I think the best goal is continued participation. Can you manage to stay involved and engaged on a level that is suitable and appropriate for where you are right now? However, this isn't easy because many clubs, as in the example of Tim, require you to buy an annual membership. And if you've broken your ankle and you know that the recovery is 3 to 4 months, and then you're going to be coming back gradually, and maybe you won't be able to work hard in a rowing boat maybe for 5 months plus, why would you pay an annual membership? So one of the challenges, I think, for us in our position as participating members, some of us will be on committees and boards that run clubs, others will be part of federations, is to create enabling structures that allow someone like Tim to loop in and out of their membership and participation in a way that suits their current capability and their life situation. So what can we do to think about things like, how could Tim stay involved with his club at this time while he has a broken ankle? He may not want to come down and watch everybody else go rowing on a Saturday morning, but he might want to join the group for coffee after the row and just to stay involved socially. What about people who can't afford to or don't want to pay a full year's membership? Could we do memberships by quarter or by term or semester or part year thereof? Similarly, thinking about the training groups in your club, most of us have a group that equates to a learn to row beginners group, a fitness group of people who train regularly but don't race, and a racing group. Now, of course, there are subgroups within that. So you might have an intermediate racing group and a more experienced racing group. But how do you as a club enable people to be flexible around those groups? Can you move in and out of those groups in a way that reflects your current life circumstance? How often do you reassign group memberships? And how can you make this easy so that there's actually a pathway for masters? They can see where they're going and they can choose what the next step they want to take is. Do they want to finish this competitive event and then drop into the social rowing group, the fitness group, something like that? Or do they want to be a intermediate racer and want to move up to the elite racer? And what does it take and how do you do that? So I'd like to end today by challenging you to think about long-term athlete development for masters and whether or not looping in and out of rowing is something that you can enable in your club. What are the things that make it possible for people to stay involved? One club I used to belong to in Marlow in the UK had a membership that was called bar membership. So you were allowed to come and use the bar area and have a drink there with friends and watch the rugby on the telly and whatever. So that was a minimal amount of money, but you stayed involved with the club and you could come and go as you pleased. And if you wanted to get back on the water, you then could rejoin in a slightly different capacity. I don't think there's any limit to the good ideas that people have, but these enabling structures might make masters rowing a little bit more long-term participatory than it currently is, so that we can stay in touch with each other, with our social group, with our training and fitness goals, and remain engaged with the sport over the ultra long term while still enabling athletic development. And I think development isn't always an upwards pathway to high achievement like the Olympic Games. Athlete development, I think, needs to be aligned with an individual's goals. And as we know, as masters, often if we can improve our skills in the boat or handling skills, you can learn how to steer, you could learn how to stroke, you could go from sweep to sculling, you could learn to be a coxswain. All of these things are small achievements that we can add to the sort of roster of what we can do with great personal satisfaction and achievement. But they are all things that then fit into this sort of pathway, which is not necessarily linear. It is a loop. You might choose to loop in, to loop out, to step away, to come back. And making that happen is something that's structural and requires a strategy from leaders around the world who are involved in masters rowing. So my challenge is to spread the word, start the conversation, and what could you do to help in your club? As you can see across the bottom of the screen here, I've got a reminder that the Older Athlete and Aging Conference this year is on the 6th of November. You can find it on the website fastermastersrowing.com/older athlete aging. Each of those three words has a hyphen between it. And I will put the link into the show notes. Tickets are on sale now. We have three amazing speakers. We have Al Morrow talking about his favorite 5 drills for rowing. He is a former Canadian international coach. We have Greg Benning, who is a competitive masters athlete who's won the head of the Charles in his single for many years, talking about how to use incremental small gains as part of your race preparation. And then we have John Leakley, who is the head masters coach for Vespa Rowing Club in Philadelphia, talking about how to make the most of your limited time on the water with a coach. And then as a coach, how you can manage a group of athletes who are in boats of different speeds and different skill levels and capabilities. So it's going to be a very practical session, which I think will be extremely interesting and the sort of useful thing that you can take away and put into practice immediately in your own rowing group. I look forward to seeing you all there in the future. And till next time, goodbye.
We are part of the Rowing Chat Podcast Network. Please tell your fellow rowers about the show. If you've learned just one helpful thing from today's episode, please consider supporting the show for as little as $1 per month by visiting fastermastersrowing.com/podcast.